做军事。
同学们加油，尽量往前坐几米，这样是可以的。
这个 no， 这是 fiction， 这是 fiction 的翻译，这就是他。
这个已经开始了。
所以大家都已经过去了，都已经过去了。所以我们就先开始，就是先说一下今天这个演讲，大多数不用听了。如果大家有什么就是觉得比较不明白呀，或者是有点就是这些单词听不懂，就直接说，直接打了没关系，然后会用中文跟大家说。And welcome to Shanghai History Museum. And today, it's going to be a lecture called a sharing session about Boeing, Airbus, and COMAC. And we're going to talk briefly about the aviation history from a teenager's perspective. And a self-introduction is that my name is Simon Wong, and I am from an international school in Shanghai. And I'm going to explore with all of you guys about a brief period of aviation history and a specific event in the aviation history. This thing is not as sensitive. Okay, so we're going to divide our table of contents into a few major parts, including the connection of aviation with our normal life, and about how to break the monopoly by Airbus, and we're going to discuss about the implications of the aviation history toward today's manufacturing, such as COMAC, Shanghai, and last but not least, we're going to talk about how can we participate and appreciate the beauty of aviation, such as I see a lot of Charles taking photos of this beautiful C919. Yes, how to appreciate the beauty of aviation. So we'll start with some warm-up questions, and you can answer these questions, such as, let's raise our hands. How many of us have previously embarked on an airplane? Shades and figure eight. Okay, I see a lot of hands up, like mostly more than half of us have aboard an airplane. But have you noticed about who is the manufacturer of this airplane? Like who made this airplane? You can raise your hands if you notice these little details. Okay, about a quarter of us, a lot. If you haven't noticed about these details, do you think that all planes are manufactured by the same company, or it's just manufactured by different companies? And we'll go back for these later. So let's discuss why do we need to learn a little bit and appreciate the history of aviation. So first, people tend to neglect it. Like geographically, the airports are set on the vicinity of most cities, such as in Shanghai. The Hongqiao Airport and the Pudong International Airport, they are all on the borders of Shanghai. So people tend to neglect it. And people think and assume it is very complex, but actually it is not that complex. And also, without aviation, traveling between different continents will be very difficult, and transporting people and goods around the world will be not that convenient. And also, aviation will unite the country together, such as Airbus. Airbus is a consortium of a lot of European countries, such as the United Kingdom, Germany, Italy, and France. And this map is a European routes with global outreach. You can observe that Airbus have divisions among everywhere in the world, including in China, such as in Beijing and in Tianjin, and also in Shanghai, which means that a single company can unite the whole world together, and it will increase communication and interactions among all the countries. And also, pioneers in the aviation sector, they will have certain qualities that will kind of encourage us through difficulties, such as we have two pilots over here. This one is Chuck Yeager. He is the first human being to break the sound barrier during the Cold War. This is his airplane called X-1. He reached Mach 1, which is the speed of sound. And he's very courageous, and his quality of being brave and encouraged us still today. And this pilot is called Amelia Earhart. She is the first female aviation pioneer to cross the Atlantic. And her actions encouraged females to reach beyond what they haven't reached before. And her courage encouraged a lot of the females to rise up and to stand on female power. And these are all the significance and the importance of the aviation history. So this is a very brief introduction about why we should learn a little bit about the history of aviation. And next, let's recall the previous questions, such as, have you noticed the planes manufactured that you have been toured on, or do you think they are made by the same company? Okay, so let's enter part 2, which is about a specific time period in the aviation history. The background is American Boeing versus European Airbus. So the Boeing company, it is an American plane manufacturer that have emerged in the 1920s. And the Airbus is a European consortium that have arisen during the 1960s and around the 70s. And the time period is from the 1950s all the way to the present. And the setting is the whole world. And why are we going to discuss about this specific topic? In short, we are going to discuss Airbus break Boeing monopoly. Why? Why are we going to discuss it? Because monopolies are hard to break. So our discussion, our key main point is how. It's the question of how. You may wonder, why is monopoly hard to break? Then probably we're going to enter a little bit of economics. So in economics, we have markets. We have some different market structures, include from perfect competition all the way to monopoly. If we use Chinese to explain all of it, it will be 完全竞争市场到垄断. From here to here, market power will increase and the number of sellers will decrease, which means that in a market, there will be less choice for consumers to choose in a monopoly. And in short, generally, economics thinks that they assume that a monopoly is the least efficient type of market solution, and perfect competition is the best for the consumers because consumers have more choice. Let's give an example. You are trying to buy some milk. If it is a perfect competition market structure, you have infinite producers to choose. You can choose whichever brand you like, and you can choose the brand with the lowest price and buy it in the cheapest form. But if it is a monopoly market structure, then you will only have one producer to choose, such as Boeing. Let's just take it for an example. In that way, they can raise the price as high as they want, and this is not good for the consumers. Unfortunately, what is it? The aviation industry is here. It is the least efficient type of market structure. If we are going to further discuss what a monopoly is, we can take a look at here. I assume that most of us have played this game called 大富翁. In this game, in the beginning, everyone has some funds, right? Everyone has to have some fun. But as the game progresses, some players, they will become richer and richer. And some players, they will become poorer and poorer. And in the final section, one or two players, they will have all the wealth in this market. And some of the players, they will broke and they will leave the game. And this is exactly what has happened in the aviation industry. And let's summarize what does monopoly means, as I have mentioned. There's limited suppliers, and there are less incentive for innovation, specifically in the division of the aviation sector. Why is it important? because less incentive in the aviation industry will signify that the manufacturers, they are not willing to innovate because innovate needs money. They need a lot of money. For example, new engines, new frames, new airframes, and new aerodynamics. They need to spend a lot of research fund on new things. So that it will cause safety problems. The most famous example is of course Boeing. In the recent years, Boeing had a lot of safety accidents, including a lot of fatal accidents from the 737 MAX series. The MCAS system is immature and it caused a lot of accidents. And also, a very near example, the 787. It has 上热搜 in the recent days from Air India. It crashed in a few minutes after it took off, and these are all the consequence of lack of incentive. They will cause safety problems. So, in short, monopoly is the least efficient market structure. After we have discussed monopoly, we need to go back to the conflict between Airbus and Boeing, and we are going to discuss how Airbus break the monopoly of Boeing. So, we're going to get an overview over the whole aviation industry history. We're going to start from before the World Wars, which is about the time from 1900s to 1914, before World War I begins. So in this period, all the aviation pioneers, they're trying to search what is an aircraft. Like, yes, Wright brothers, pretty weird, isn't it? The B-02, pretty weird, isn't it? It's just like a few wood frames and put them together and put a propeller engine upon. So in this period, planes are immature, they are still on the edge of discovery. So in that period, Boeing has already founded in the 1910s. In the 1910s, Boeing have already founded by Mr. Williams. Why? Because he's motivated by a rising new industry called aviation. And this is the initial warehouse of the Boeing company in Seattle, Washington State, United States. And after a period of searching what aviation should be, we come to the two world wars. Notably, in the two world wars, the aviation industry developed significantly. They developed from around 300 kilometers per hour all the way to Mach 2, even Mach 1. So the speed increased, the range increased, the range of the airplane can cover, and also the height that the plane travels, all increased. And specifically, in World War I, we have biplanes, like this. These are biplanes. They have two sets of wings to provide some lift for them, and yes, and weapons have not previously been put on an airplane before. They are primarily used for reconnaissance purposes, like searching the enemy's bases, like how many people do they have, and searching the actions of the enemies. But after this thing, called synchronized machine guns have been invented, planes with guns have been invented, and air force of various countries have been formed, because it is a completely new type of military form. And Boeing's entry in World War I by providing planes for the US military is pretty significant. It gave rise to the Boeing company. And head on to World War II. After World War I, people realized that the aviation industry is very significant. So there's a lot of developments in World War II after the falling of a lot of funds, such as these technologies. Monoplane design, all metal construction, and retractable landing gears. Their purpose is all to serve a faster, higher, and more fuel-efficient warplanes, such as from biplane to monoplane, the wind drag it is significantly reduced. And Boeing's dominance, this is very important because the Boeing's company's monopoly can be attributed to this thing. 28% of US aircraft production during the war are supported by Boeing, which means that Boeing obtained technological know-how about how to manufacture planes through supplying warplanes for the US military. And there are a lot of very famous air types, such as this one, B-17 Flying Fortress. But wait a sec. Yeah, the order is a little bit chaotic, but perfected, such as this one, the B-17 Flying Fortress and the B-29 Staff Fortress. And this one is the plane that dropped the 2 nukes on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So it's all metal design, so it's very famous and it reduces gravity. Don't laugh. Don't laugh. It's part of history. So yes. So generally, in the 2 world wars, aviation industry developed significantly. And in the post-war period, directly after the 2 world wars, we entered a period called the Cold War. And the Cold War, it is a bipolar world structure, which means that on one side we have the capitalist United States, and on one side we have the communist Soviet Union. We might assume that within the Western section, they are all united, but actually they are not. Europe and the United States, they are still trying to combat with each other, trying to gain potence and dominance over the whole world, including in the aviation sector. In the post-war period, the European manufacturers from various countries, such as Britain, France, and Italy, they all want to try to gain dominance in the aviation sector from the United States manufacturers. They had a lot of attempts, such as COMAC, Comet. It is the first jetliner, yes, it is the first commercial jet airliner. 第一个喷气式客机, yes, the British have obtained this excellence. We have this COMAC entering service for the first commercial jetliner. And we also have this attempt, the famous, yes, BAC Concorde, 斜口号. It is still the fastest jetliner in human history. It can reach a speed of Mach 2, much faster than today's airliner. Today's airliner travels about 0.9 Mach. It's below the speed of sound because it has sonic boom, which is 音爆. It is very loud. It's very loud. When it flies across us, we can see boom sound, and it is very disruptive. So basically, this Concorde, it leaves the stage of history, and also it's very expensive to operate, so it just vanished in around 2000. And for this plane, this attempt also failed because it is not that mature and it is not that stable. Its jet engine is not that stable and it's not that reliable. So these 2 attempts, these 2 famous attempts, they all failed. So the European consortium, they try to find a solution to beat this thing, which is the difficulties of Airbus to break the monopoly of Boeing. Why? Because there is political dominance of US manufacturers. As the leader of the Western Hemisphere, the United States have absolute dominance in the Western team. It is the leader of the Western team. So there's a lot of political pressure that the United States government exerts upon the European airliners, such as the US government might say, you must purchase our aircraft, such as these, the famous Boeing 707, 717, and the 727. These 3 aircraft, they mainly dominate the aviation industry from around 1950s to 1970s. And also, another difficulty of Europe is that they are economically weak after the 2 world wars. As we all know, the world wars are very destructive, which means that the basic infrastructure and the industrial zones of Europe are being bombed within the 2 wars by bombers. But US mainland have not been attacked except for Pearl Harbor, have not been attacked in the war. So they still maintain the power to manufacture these commercial airliners, which means that the production of the US manufacturers are much higher. So after discussing the difficulty of Airbus, let's discuss how do they resolve these problems. How do they break the monopoly? What specific ways do they use? We can summarize these methods into 3 parts. Utilize ingenious marketing tactics, technological innovations, and very pioneer technologies upon these airliners. And last but not least, government subsidy. Yes, government subsidy is very important in economics principle. Government subsidy can assist these manufacturers to obtain the funds they need to use in order to research new planes and airplanes. So let's evaluate these 3 methods. So the first tactic is that The first aircraft of Airbus is called the A300. Okay, so the A300 entered the market, and we know that in the market there is something called niche, 生态位. It is a biological term, but if we use it in the aviation market, it means that whether if your airplane meets a specific need and demand of the consumers, the A300 obtained a very unique niche, the niche of being a double-engine wide-body aircraft. Due to its double-engine design, it is very fuel efficient. 很节能. Why is it important? Because during its emergence in the 1970s, we have an event called the global oil crisis. 世界石油危机. The oil supply is devoid. We do not have a lot of oil because the main suppliers of oil, such as the OPEC countries, 中东石油国家等, they reduce the supply of oil. So the fuel-efficient A300 obtained a new niche in the market, which means that the airlines say that, well, you are fuel efficient. The operating cost of this aircraft is reduced. We will buy you. And another tactic is that the US market, it is the largest consumer market in the whole world. Till now it is still the biggest consumer market. So introducing this aircraft into the US market will be a huge success. So how do Airbus manage to do this? They rent the airplanes for free to a US airliner called Eastern Airlines. Yes, they rent it for free, like 体验7天, 7天免费体验期. So the airliner is more likely to accept this aircraft because it's for free. And Eastern Airlines, they apply this aircraft in a very popular route. 热门航线，就像我们暑假的时候去三亚、去南方旅游的。To America, it is from New York to Miami. Miami is in the south of the United States, and New York is like Shanghai. Like all the people gather here to study, to work. So during the summer, when a lot of passengers need to go to the south, they will board the A300 and they will experience it. And it's very comfortable, it's very fuel efficient, and they will have good feedback about this aircraft. So it will be welcome. A300 will be welcome in the US market, and it will be more acceptable for the US airliners to purchase this aircraft. And after analyzing the first market tactic, let's go to the second one, called technological innovations. You may wonder that if Boeing has this dominance over the market, it has technological dominations, right? But the truth is, the faith of Boeing for building aircraft is essentially different from Airbus. This is from an essay analyzing the Boeing Airbus rivalry. It points out that the Airbus company is more likely and more acceptable to innovate and to acquire new technologies, new innovations, such as more efficient engines, and also new technologies such as the fly-by-wire system, 飞控系统. It means that the plane is not controlled by threads, 就是它不是用钢缆操作, but by fly-by-wire. Yeah, it's basically you pull the handle and it will convert this into an electric signal to the flaps and to other airframes. In this way, the pilot didn't need to control the plane by his own force, but by the computer. So these technology innovations made the airplanes of Airbus much more convenient, much more new technologies. And last but not least, in summary, the face of Boeing to build airplanes is to emphasize incremental improvements on existing models. On contrast, Airbus tend to use completely new emerging technologies. It is more risky, but it has higher profits. 就是你的成本，就是你的风险越大，你的回报也会更大。And Airbus tried this route, and fortunately, it's success. And the third method is basically government subsidy. We all know that currently, in the present day, the Chinese government, they put a lot of subsidy on electrical cars. That's why we have so many electrical plants today. It is numerous, it is infinite, like Xiaomi, like Huawei, like all of these brands. In that time, the European governments applied the same principle. they give a lot of money to Airbus. Airbus put these funds into research and they build new planes with new technologies. And in summary, the accumulated subsidy to Airbus is around 205 billion US dollars over the past 35 years. That is a lot of money. 2500亿美元 It's billion, 10 billion 是10亿，2550 Oops. Okay. So, let's go to the implications of what the aviation industry brings to us today. The case study of Airbus has been converted to an MBA course case study. It is very typical, very iconic, and a very ideal successful case. The Airbus case might inform current manufacturers, such as COMAC. COMAC is trying to break the duopoly between Airbus and Boeing. A duopoly is a market structure with two manufacturers. Monopoly, mono means one, dual means two. And whether it will be a success, we don't know. But the current progress, it seems good. The three biggest operators of the C919 is Air China, China Eastern, and China Southern. They all have around 20 C919 in total, and they apply these brand new planes in popular routes, such as from Shanghai to Hong Kong. In this way, commercial and business elites that's traveling between Shanghai and Hong Kong, they might experience this brand new aircraft, and they might just as the A300 is applied into the route between Miami and New York. These elites traveling from Shanghai to Hong Kong might experience these new planes, C919. So let's grant fortunate for C919, and let's hope that C919 can break the duopoly between Airbus and Boeing. Okay, so after a very brief lecture, if we connect the aviation industry to our common life, how can we appreciate and participate in the beauty of aviation? How can we get connections with the aviation industry? Well, there are a few ways, such as flight logs. This is my flight log, and this flight log is basically, it will record some contents every time I board a plane. It will include things such as the type of the aircraft, the time length of the aircraft, and a lot of more specific information about the flight. And the pilot will feel it, so you will feel connected with the pilot. 然后可以传下来都可以看一下。Yes. And using these flight logs, you can still have connections and conversations with the pilot. So yes, in fortunate times, if the pilot has time, you can even enter the cockpit after the plane has landed. 就是说，如果那个机长愿意的话，飞机降落以后，他会把那个飞机熄火一段时间，他要熄火。这个熄火的程序，如果这个航司允许的话，你是可以进到驾驶室里面去，就是你可以亲自体验一次，就是把飞机shut down。Okay, let's continue. The second way is using aviation photography platforms such as I use plane spotters. These are all my favorite photos for these planes. These are expert photographers that directly focus on giving photos to planes. They will have flight platforms in various airports, and these aviation enthusiasts will go to these platforms and take pictures for these airplanes. There are numerous pictures in these platforms, and notably, all the background that I select for today's presentation are from this website. So yes, they have a lot of photos of airplane from this website. And you can see these are all very high qualities. And if you are participating in that, you can even publish your own photos upon these websites, such as same website, plane spotters. Look at here, photo updates. You can even update your own photo if you have taken some photo out there. So yes, these platforms are very useful for us to participate with the industry of aviation. And also, you can participate in lecture like this one to participate in the aviation industry and to appreciate its beauty. Yeah, aviation logistics, such as these lectures. But these professors, they are much more expert than me. I'm just a high school student, so yeah, I'm not that expert, but I'll try to do my best. And appreciate the beauty of aviation through plane models. 就是这次活动感谢上海历史博物馆，他们给大家都会送一个小飞机的一个纪念品，然后对，这个我们可以去拿一下。
就结束了吗？
对，所以今天的营养就到这里之后，就是如果大家有任何的想要讨论的，都可以跟我讲，都可以自由讨论，大家都可以。好，谢谢。就是跟大家说一下，这边每一架飞机都是我挑的一个独特的地方，没有一个飞机是一样的，而且有可能可以开出隐藏版，就是这架小，看谁拿到。